Here we're going to learn how to divide decimals by decimals using a fraction approach. Here we have the decimal numbers 3 and 2/10 divided by 4 and 5/10. The first thing that we'll go ahead and do using the fractions approach is to go ahead and write these as mixed numbers. After we write them as mixed numbers, we will take those mixed numbers and turn them into improper fractions. 3 and 2/10 is 32/10, and it's divided by 40/5. At that point, we're going to go ahead and invert and multiply. In other words, we'll keep the 32/10 the same, and we'll multiply by the reciprocal of 40/5, which is 5/40. Using that common factors approach, we can go ahead and reduce the 5 there to a 1 and the 10 to a 2. Here we have 32, which is 8 times 4, and this is 8 times 5, so that we'll go ahead and go a 4 there and a 5 there. And I'll just show that to you again, where I have the 8, and then I can go ahead and cross out the 8. Finally, I still have a 4 here and a 2 here, so this is now a 2, and this here can be a 1. 2 times 1 is 2 in the numerator, and 1 times 5 is 5. So 3 and 2/10 divided by 4 and 5/10 is 2/5, which is equal to times 2 and times 2. It's equal to 4/10, which is written as a decimal as 0.4. Here I have 1 and 6/10 divided by 2/10. So what I do, I'll write it as a mixed number, 1 and 6/10 that is, and I'll write divided by 2/10. I then take that mixed number, 1 and 6/10, and write it as an improper fraction. 1 and 6/10 is just 16/10. And then I'm writing this division problem as a multiplication problem, and I make 2/10 10 halves. At that point, I can go ahead and do my work. Common factors approach, I can go ahead and reduce those to 1. 16, 2. 2 times 8 is 16, so this is just 8, and this is also 1. So I have 8 over 1, which just equals 8. And so my answer is 8. 1 and 6/10 divided by 2/10 equals 8. Here I have 2 and 4/10 divided by 4/100. And so again, what am I going to do? I'm going to go ahead and write the 2 and 4/10 as a fraction divided by 4/100 as a fraction. I will then write that division problem as a multiplication problem. And I will also, in that process, make 2 and 4/10 into a improper fraction. 24/10 times 100 over 4. 24 can be written as the product of 4 times 6, so I do have a common factor there. 4, 4. 10, 100, 10 times 10, so this reduces to 10. 6 times 10 is 60, and I should have left a 1 in the denominator. So 60 once is just equal to 60. 2 and 4/10 divided by 4/100 equals 60. Here I have 1 and 5/10 divided by 3/100. You try this. Go ahead and hit pause. Did you start by writing a mixed number for 1 and 5/10? You still write a division problem and you write 3/100. Hope you wrote 3/100. 1 and 5/10 is then made into an improper fraction, 15/10. And then you multiply it by the reciprocal of 3/100, which is 100/3. I can go ahead and use my common factors approach. 3 becomes a 1. 15, which is 3 times 5, is just 5 then. 10, 1. 100 is 10 times 10, so this is 10 here. 5 times 10 in the numerator is 50, and in the denominator I have 1. 50 once, so our answer is 50. Here's another problem for you to try. 11 and 5/10 divided by 5/10. Please hit pause. First step is to write improper fraction after we write a mixed number. 11 and 5/10 divided by 5/10. And so 11 and 5/10, 11 times 10 is 110, plus 5 is 115 tenths, times the inverse, or the reciprocal, of 5/10, which is 10 fifths. Tenths, 10, 1, 1, which is 115 fifths. I can do my division work for that there to get my answer, because I do have to simplify. 5 goes into 11 2 whole times. 2 times 5 is 10. 11 minus 10 is 1. Bring down the 5. And 15 divided by 5 is 3. 3 times 5 being 15. And 15 minus 15 is 0. 23 is our answer here. So we write that for our original equation as well. Read it with me. 11 and 5/10 divided by 5/10 equals 23. So here's one last problem to go ahead and review. We're dividing by what? 200ths. What's our first step when we're working on this problem here? Right, we'll write 9 and 4/10 as a mixed number. We're still going to have a multiplication or division problem right here. Division. And this number here is read as how? 200ths. So we write a 2 over 100. Next, we're going to write a multiplication problem for this same problem here. And then in that process, I'm also going to convert 9 and 4/10 into an improper fraction as 94/10 multiplied by 100 over 2. 2 becomes a 1, so the 94 can become 47. That's half of that there. 10 becomes a 1, so the 100 can become 10. And we have 470 once, which is just 470. So the big key here is these steps. And again, we have a mixed number for that there, and we're using that fractions approach. When there is not a mixed number, you can just write that decimal, however it is that it's read, is how it's written. And when you're dividing, you use a multiplication problem with the reciprocal of that divisor, and you can use that common factors approach to simplify. And that's how you do it. Technically, if we didn't use the common factors approach, we could have solved that. It would have been 9,400, which is 94 times 100. And then the denominator would have been 10 times 2, which is 20. 20 goes into 94 4 times. 4 times 20 is 80. 94 minus 80 is 14. Bring down the 0. 140 divided by 20 is 7. 7 times 20 being 140. And I need to bring down one more 0 and place a 0 there as well. That 470 that I had mentioned before. Double-digit division is where we're headed. Next,